Yeah, so hi Shantanu.
Hi,
Am I pronouncing your name right?
that is correct. It has a couple of pronunciations, but all of them are correct. So yeah,
What do you prefer?
Shantanu is correct. Well, my Marathi friends call me Shantanu,
Okay. Oh,
and everyone else calls me Shantanu.
so
And Mr. Tata has a whole different
yeah,
pronunciation. So
that's right. Yeah, I got that from your book. You were like Shanta and then Nu and things like that.
yeah, yeah.
So first, let me congratulate you on this book that is soaring on the charts, and it's I think getting to number 3, and I'm pretty certain it's going to get to number 1. I'm pretty
Oh, I don't know about that,
yeah, I'm quite certain.
but
Yeah, I just
yeah, it's been nice.
yeah.
I think I've been surprised myself at how well it is doing. I didn't really expect this,
Yeah.
but I'm happy.
Yeah, it's a book that is it's a emotional, very loving. I'm lacking of words, which are very heartwarming book. And there were a couple of places I welled up, I teared up, and it's good that I did, because usually I do it in a romantic story. so so this made me well up. Then obviously there was a lot to it, and I think it was it's very well written and a very well structured book. And I'm you're only 27, right, Shantanu? And you
I'm
snack
not
right?
27,
Oh no, okay. Oops, sorry.
but you're close.
Okay, you've grown since then.
I've grown. I've grown. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay, you've grown since then. Yeah, it's a great age to be. It's a great age to be. I would do anything to get back to that age. So it's a great age to be. But uh, writing a book at a young age, and something so thoughtful and something that is so deep, it touches people's hearts, is a achievement in itself. So I wanted to ask you like a few questions. We'll go into that. Uh, so your,
Sure.
so of course the book is all about you, your family, your life, and of course the weaving in Mr. Tata as well. And your friendship started off quite organic, I would say. It wasn't something obviously
Yeah.
well thought of or planned or anything of that sort. So
Yeah.
it started off with Motopause, which is a big part of your life, which is an important part of your
Yeah.
life. Tell us something about Motopause, because everyone I know loves dogs, so they would love to hear that story.
So Motopause was a product of my very early years in my career, and actually my first year, in fact. And I was a very junior design engineer at Tata
Right.
in Pune.
Yeah.
And being junior comes with its selective responsibilities, which others don't have, like staying back for night shifts.
Yeah.
And my night shifts used to end very late. And I used to come home late every night and used to see these dogs in the middle of the road that would have been run over by cars.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was a very worrying situation. So, given the resources that I had, I put together this reflective collar because I had access to all these materials in the automotive design industry.
Right.
And we successfully collared 500 dogs. People started noticing, they started validating the fact that it's working.
Yeah.
And it was only a matter of time before it got featured. And Mr. Tata also found out about it. And that was the first connection.
Right. Right.
So, had there been no Motopause, then that entire domino effect of having met or even introduced to
Yeah.
Mr. Tata would not have happened.
Yeah. So it's thank
So,
yeah.
yeah, so Motopause has its significance in saving dogs. Obviously, today we are in 15 cities.
Right.
But at the same time, it had a lot of other repercussions, good ones, in terms of
Yeah.
what happened with my life
Yeah.
and who I met.
Yeah. It's an effect, isn't it? Like one thing led to another.
Yeah. So that's why I'm thankful for Motopause on both counts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that was the beginning of our friendship with Mr. Tata because
Right.
not only does he love dogs,
Yeah.
but he gets so excited when young people are doing something, especially that's trying to create an impact,
Yes. Yeah.
that it fascinates him. And I think more than what they're actually doing, as much as he's attracted to that and the uniqueness of that, he's also attracted to the spirit of young people because in a way, and he said this himself on many counts, it makes him feel young too.
Oh,
to be surrounded by people who have that kind of young spirit.
yes, yes.
So he feels like he's living life through those people again.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
he's a man of few words, which I assume, which I read through your book. He's an introverted man in his own way, and he's a but he's an obviously, as a businessman, there's nothing, and an industrialist, there's no one to top Mr. Tata. There's no one. He's got a reputation that precedes him, and he's got the best reputation in industry, everything. But what being a businessman, and he's also very empathetic. That's what, I've used that word quite a few times. So how does he balance this in his business life? What is your what have you noticed?
I think that's a great question because people always imagine that how do you take a certain value and you bring it into business. And people have asked him
Hmm.
also this question often, that how do you bring empathy into business? And while we would all be better off having that answer,
Hmm.
I don't think he has one,
Yeah.
because empathy is an emotional value. It's not a value like discipline or timeliness or ethics also, which can be black and white, which can be taught. But empathy is something that has an emotional connect to your human side. And while people who don't have empathy can sort of work on it,
Hmm.
to say that let me bring empathy into business is a bit difficult. So how do you bring empathy into business? Well, you become an empathetic person. So it starts with you as an individual. The reason Mr. Tata can bring empathy into business so easily is because he is an empathetic person. And when you're an empathetic person,
Yeah.
you can't segregate between empathy in business and empathy in personal life. Empathy will be a core value across all your foundations of life, and that will include business. And that's why we have this very empathetic group with the right values.
Yes.
That is the Tata group. So I think it's come from him as a core characteristic and not as something he has worked on and brought in.
Yeah.
Um, so
You're
that I think
managing
would
quite a bit of things. No, you're managing the Tata Trust. You are, of course, with him. You're assisting him. You are with him. You are his colleague, deputy manager. I read last, and you've been like also having this on the Sparks, a training program. In the lockdown, you have been completely involved. So, how are you balancing all this, and how do you make time for so many roles that you're playing?
I don't have an answer to that because I don't really plan it as much, but I get very emotionally attached to something that I want to do, and then it just has to find a way through it.
Yeah.
And I think in the end, it all works out only if you are that desperate to do that particular thing. So all of the things that I do simultaneously, I'm very attached to, passionate about, and desperate to do at all times,
Yeah.
which is why it sort of all figures out.
Yeah.
If I was half-hearted in any of these, then that would probably fall off, or I would not be interested, or it would be hard to manage.
Yeah.
But when you really, really love doing so many things at once, it just sort of works out. You make time, and I'm not even taking like conscious decisions where I put it on the calendar and stuff. Nothing more than what a basic individual does, but it's just giving everything equal commitment and enjoying everything. I think that's the enjoying part is the main thing, where I really enjoy teaching entrepreneurship to students.
Yeah.
I really enjoy working in the philanthropic sector with Mr. Tata. I really enjoy working in the startup sector with Mr. Tata. And I really enjoy observing him and learning from him as an assistant.
Right.
So I enjoy all of this so much that it really doesn't feel like I'm sort of overwhelming myself.
Yeah.
So
he's not only a mentor, of course, you're a mentor, but he's a best friend. He's like an older brother. There's so many things that you have stated in the book. What are the two things, according to you, which is etched in your memory forever, like about him? There is two things that he's either told you, or two incidents that will be always etched in your memory.
That's hard one when you are on the spot. But one thing, of course, is, which I also mentioned in the book, is how he insists that we should put ourselves in other people's shoes. He insists that in every walk of life, not just personal.
Yeah.
He insists doing that in business. He insists doing that personally, relatives, family, friends, acquaintances, everyone you meet. And that really gives you a better understanding in people.
Yeah.
The moment you put yourself in someone else's circumstances, you realize that you would also have probably done the exact same thing that the person is doing, or you begin to understand the reasons why that person is doing it.
Yeah.
And once you understand that, there's just no room for friction and no room for aggression, misunderstanding. And in business or anywhere else, this is a very inexpensive and amazing tool, a very powerful tool to sort of know and understand each person around you. So that I have tried to carry with me a lot. It doesn't happen as naturally as it happens with Mr. Tata, but you do have to take conscious efforts to sort of do that, especially when you find yourself agitated with people. And that I think is the best situation, when you can imagine yourself as that person, and suddenly you have this eureka moment and realize, oh, this person is facing all these challenges. If I was facing them, I would also probably act the same way.
The same way.
And that gives you a level of patience.
Yeah.
So I think that would be one. The second thing I think that will always stay with me, because he gave it in the form of a scolding, which I have put in the book also, is never call anyone after 9 p.m.
9:30.
Yeah, right. So never doing that again. If there's a work-related call or anything that is not completely urgent in the sense of life and death,
Yeah.
you don't disturb anyone at that time.
Yeah.
You don't do it.
Yeah, but which is
I've seen him. Yeah, I've seen him practice this also.
right.
And sometimes he's called me after 9 for some emergency situations, and I've taken the opportunity to taunt him. Not that I mind
Yeah.
him calling me after 9, but
Yeah.
and I've said to him, "Mr. Rada, it's after 9:30," and he said, "Yeah, but that doesn't work between us. We can always do that." So very convenient, but yeah, I understand the reasoning behind that also. It's just like he knows how to draw boundaries. He knows how to respect boundaries, no matter if it's someone who is a subordinate or someone who's working alongside you, or even someone who's above you.
Yeah.
A boundary is a boundary. That's what my takeaway was from that. And you don't overstep them. You don't have authority over anyone's life like that. And if you plan to disturb them, then you should absolutely make it clear how much you regret disturbing them, but you just had to.
Yeah. So that's a lesson we all need, right? About boundaries.
I know.
There's no boundaries anywhere. We like.
I know.
Yeah.
And in the lockdown, especially, work from home has turned into work all the time, every time, because you're home, which is ridiculous, because there are still work hours that people should respect. And I've heard a lot of my friends say that because it's work from home, organizations are trying to say that, oh, then you should work more, or you should always be working, which is not really fair.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. How was your lockdown experience? You had said, there were a couple of really fun things that you mentioned in the book about your vitamin C tablets that Mr. Tata insisted on you having. And there were these very, you made the whole, of course, pandemic was a very serious situation. But you went out of your way to feed the animals all across Mumbai. You went to the streets that really needed. You reached out to the policemen, the cops, and went out and reached out to them with all the packed meals. You did a lot, but there was also this simultaneously, you meeting Mr. Tata pretty often, and you're having a dinner, and then him making sure that your immunity is okay and his is fine as well. So how was that for you?
Yeah.
It's a very cute way to end the book.
So the lockdown was the time when my family is in Pune. Right. So in the very early days of lockdown, it was a pretty bad situation where the house help wasn't there, or even my parents weren't there, or I couldn't just go to my house and sort of be secured.
Yeah.
So it was a very rude shock to sort of suddenly become independent and manage all the things.
Yeah.
And plus work now had to be from home, because Mr. Tata, being an octogenarian, he has to be protected. So we shut down the office, which meant that I was constantly working from his house, which we still are after a year. So that sort of elevated a lot of responsibilities, which I didn't mind, but at the same time, I couldn't balance out the house stuff on my own, and it was getting a little freaky. Sometimes you don't even get groceries and stuff
Yeah, yeah,
because the time slots of the shops were so small that by the time I went down to get bread, everyone had already bought it.
got it. Yeah,
Um, but he was cognizant of all of this, and he stepped in as like an auxiliary family in that time,
yeah, yeah.
and he was absolutely there for me even if we were working a lot.
Mm.
Before and after, he would always ask me if I've had food. I couldn't lie to him because I didn't like saying no and then having him always take the trouble of doing something. So I would say no sometimes, but somehow he would always see through that.
Yeah.
So he started giving me these care packages. He started having me over for dinner more frequently, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And of course, he gave me this milk with haldi, which I absolutely hated, but
I
it
can.
was a very necessary
Yeah.
thing to. So it became sort of we fell into our own routine where we worked through the day, and then we took care of our immunity together, which is like this turmeric milk and vitamin tablets.
Yeah.
And then we sort of tried to entertain ourselves with movies and stuff whenever we could,
Yeah.
and just sort of watched how the pandemic was progressing. And work was centered a lot around how the Tata Trust is going to respond to the pandemic, because there was a huge need for organizations like the Trust to step in and help meet the needs of the country and the demands of the pandemic. So it was a time when I learned a lot. It was a time when I spent time with him a lot in a personal capacity and a professional capacity.
Right.
And it also gave me time to finish the book.
Yeah.
So I think it worked out a
Okay.
lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't say that I would definitely say I was very privileged
Yeah.
in terms of how I was able to face the pandemic. And I know everyone wasn't able to do that. So I absolutely acknowledge the fact that I was well taken care of thanks to him and in general also. So
So, Shantanu, that was nice. Thank you so much for answering everything so candidly, so honestly, and so kindly. I wanted to get into your book now a bit because,
sure, yeah,
yes, there are certain things in the book which I picked up, so certain lines. So, I'll speak about the lines and then just tell me a little bit of a story around it. So, people who have not read your book, they kind of get a small brief into it and they'll definitely buy your book. They'll definitely get tempted to buy your book because really, guys, if you all haven't read I Came Upon a Lighthouse, you're really missing something. For a person like me, who's an author, and I should not admit it, but person who reads very little compared to the other writers and authors, I enjoyed it a lot. I welled up in places. I was quite emotional, and it wasn't a chick flick, so I was very surprised at myself. So it was something that it was straight from his heart, and I think anything that touches the heart is worth a read, is worth a watch always. So
that's the biggest compliment you can give me. I appreciate that. Thank
I,
you.
I really mean it. I really mean it, Shantanu. I really mean it. I've been telling everybody since last night, since the time I finished, that you know what, I had the last chapter left. I said, guys, you know, just pick it up. If for nothing else, just pick it up, or then I'll send it to you. And they're like, cheaters, yeah, then you can just, yeah, why don't you just send it to us? Like, yeah. People don't change. So I'll just read a couple of lines. Uh, this is through the book, you know, a few pages. So you said, no matter how many times I have been told that moving out was a part of adulting, it is selfish to abandon under the guise of a better opportunity. You were talking about your parents and about leaving for Cornell, which you got into.
Yeah.
You know, you were aiming for the Ivy League, which all the most youngsters who want to make something out of their life. So you didn't want to. You wanted to always come back, and you
Yeah.
got no flack for it. Like you're going abroad and you want to come back. Which I
Yeah.
find it ridiculous. Like obviously you want to come back. You want to do something for your people. I mean, it's just obvious. But of course, to others it sounds Latin and Greek. So what was the emotion behind that for yourself with your with Naina and
So I have seen them make so many sacrifices throughout my life in different stages, and I'm sure all of our parents have. And I think it's a given in the Indian traditional parenting system that when the kid moves away for a better opportunity, they just have to deal with it. And my mom and my dad were dealing with the fact that I perhaps am moving away for good if I get a job there or if I want to settle down abroad, as most people do, most Indian students do. But I could see through the cracks a little bit, and how much my mother needed me, and how much it meant to them as a family if I would be around. And I could see that. And if that is a true and genuine emotion, then I don't want her to suppress it, bottle it up, and just deal with it because I could have a better life somewhere else. Because for me, the balance was off, because I was paying a huge cost for building a better life somewhere else by taking away from her life, which was not fair. And they have been super involved in my life in molding me and shaping me and bringing me to this peak. And how do you sort of detach yourself from a 24-year-old relationship that's been around forever and then sort of say that now it's time? I get the whole leaving the nest part, but for me personally, this was an extreme where you just change countries and don't
Yeah,
look back.
yeah, exactly. Leaving the nest doesn't have to be.
So right now I'm living in Bombay and I'm working from here, and I would still consider that leaving the nest and having a sense of independence, which there should be.
Yeah.
But I want to be there, to be available at the drop of a phone call, to just rush there and meet
Yes,
them or spend time with them.
you said it.
Which honestly, when you go abroad and settle down, however much you want to, doesn't happen. And I don't have anything against people who are doing that, because perhaps their parents are really resilient emotionally and they can deal with it, or perhaps it was always agreed, or their family values are around that, which is fine. It's not right or wrong.
Right.
My family isn't one of those. I am extremely attached to them. My mother is definitely very attached to me, and I don't blame her at all. So that is why I always wanted to come back. But there are people, the reason that I put it in the book is that there are people who want to come back. I know they want to come back, but the Indian societal system of shame for people who go abroad and come back is so set in our brains that coming back is synonymous with failure.
Yeah.
Coming back is synonymous with, oh, you couldn't do anything for yourself
Right.
abroad. And that shame sort of overpowers them to the point where even if they want to return to their families and the country, they don't do it.
That's interesting.
Which is really bad, which is really sad. And I have had these conversations with people I have known who went to the US, and there was always this underlying current of, yes, but I want to come back. Even when they were hunting jobs abroad, even when they were settling down,
Yeah.
and they were getting jobs and stuff, but that sense of belonging wasn't there. And Indian students, I think, are dismissing that strong urge to return or sense of belonging, because they feel that they will be tagged as a failure.
Right.
And again, it comes down to the Indian educational system, where it's superimposed that if you go abroad and don't make a name for yourself or make lots of money, then you are a failure.
Yes. Yeah.
But my experience, on the other hand, of going abroad was to collect a lot of experiences, which I can come back and use. So
yeah.
If you go abroad and get educated and come back, it doesn't mean your education abroad was wasted. You just chose a different place to apply it,
Absolutely.
which is absolutely fair.
Totally. In fact, it is. I think it's much more fair, to be honest.
Yeah. And we are in that weird phase in our late 20s, I think, where you see your parents start aging, you see them start facing different issues in life, and to leave them on their own to deal with that, it's just I can't deal with it.
Yeah.
It's just I can't do it.
Yeah.
So and it only gets worse. So as they get worse, you moving away is like probably the worst combination.
I hear you. Yeah.
So that's why I decided to come back, and that was always the goal.
One of the first things that touched me in this book was something that it just showed me who you are in this line. It just showed me who you are. You know, that whether I read any of it or not, or what, I already made my whole thing about it. This guy is a, I can relate to this boy. So I think you got me at that with your parents. You call your mom Amma, right?
Yes, Amma.
So there's this incident which I found really, like, you were. It was your graduation, and Mr. Tata came there a day before. You all had a family dinner, and you spoke about the fish curry and the armrest. Now, do tell me, this armrest, the two words of armrest. That was a very cute.
So armrest, which is basically mango pulp, which is like a big delicacy in Maharashtrian households in the summer.
Yeah.
I hadn't had mangoes for 2 years now when I went abroad, and my mom always used to regret it that I can't send you mangoes. There's no way. And whenever she used to have mangoes in Pune, with every bite, she used to feel so much guilt that I am not sharing this with my son. So that was so wired in her mind that when she came to the US, she had packed that dabba and made sure that she will, bring it there. And it wasn't planned to be used at that particular dinner, but because until she came to Ithaca at Cornell, we didn't even know that we were having that dinner.
Yeah.
So that armrest clearly had its own destiny, apart from just being mine. Especially because we needed dessert that day when Mr. Dada came to the house, and he really enjoyed the armrest. He had 2 bowls full, and I think that gave my mom immense satisfaction, more than her son having had that.
Yeah.
So so that was the significance of the armrest. It represented basically the fact that I couldn't have it for 2 years, how much it missed me,
Yeah.
and also the fact that it came to be put to a use that she will remember forever.
Yeah, remember forever.
So
Good imagine, right?
yeah,
There's another, I've just like put a few lines across, so which have really moved me. There's nobody guards, no security. He says, "Who wants to hurt me?" So Mr. Tata goes
yeah,
everywhere without security, which in this day and
yeah,
age isn't. I mean, like there's, I don't know, even like anyone, even I would like security if you ask me. I'm like, nobody even cares. So like, I mean, for a man at his stature to say, no security, and he obliges people with all sorts of things, even if it's an autograph or a photograph, and he never says no, or he lets them down really easy if he's busy. So,
yeah.
so what have you picked up from that? Like, I mean, is there? Do you worry as well? Like, do you feel like you're the bodyguard? You are like really protective about?
I do have to think about that angle, but not from a somebody's out to kill him kind of angle, but more of like nobody
Mob him.
should push him the wrong way or mob him. Or
Yeah,
so I am always worried about that. It helps me sort of look out for who's around and what's around, but I never have the guts, and I would never have the guts to sort of step in and tell someone,
yeah,
please move back,
yeah,
or please don't do this, because that ultimatum only he has the authority to give, and I respect that,
yeah,
because he doesn't like anyone being spoken down to or spoken to rudely or instructed on his behalf.
yeah,
He always likes to do that himself if something is bothering him. So I trust him, and everyone who's with him trusts him that he will say and do what he feels
yeah,
if someone does supposedly come close or mob him, etc.
yeah,
We've never had a situation out of hand or anything. Everyone is pretty respectful.
yeah, of course.
But as far as security is concerned, I think his main concern with having bodyguards and security is that he hates to inconvenience anyone around him constantly, just because of his presence or his stature or his importance.
You
So
mentioned a
that's
couple of
why
times that in the
yeah,
hotels and restaurants, he doesn't like a fuss that is, people making a fuss on.
no, not at all, not at all. And even like when he travels, sometimes the cops ask him if he wants a pilot car. A pilot car is basically the car in front of your car, which puts on the siren and escorts you wherever you're going. And he always refuses to have one of those unless they make it mandatory. So he doesn't like all of that business of anyone else getting to do more work or having to put in more effort or causing any inconvenience just so he's comfortable.
Yeah,
I think that is a big place why he doesn't have security. And the other reason is, of course, he doesn't think he's a danger from anyone or anything at all. So I think,
yeah,
and I think to some extent that's true.
yes. You have a clean heart
So,
and you don't harm people. It's obvious that no one's going to want to do that. I mean, it actually
yeah,
reflects on your clear conscience and your clean heart, isn't it? Like somewhere.
yeah, it does.
No, like if you've done right, then there's no reason why there should be anything that is wrong.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So there's this reunion you talk about in the book where Mr. Tata goes back to his 1959
yeah,
match. Was it 1959?
yeah. 1959. Yes.
So this whole thing where you were refilling the plates and of all his batch mates, and obviously they were much older, so to go into the buffet table is going to take longer, and it's an effort. So, and Mrs.
Yeah.
Tata was making eyes at you. "Okay, you haven't done this. Come on, do this." It's very,
Yeah.
it's very like a fatherly thing, like, like so. How do you take that?
Yeah.
I mean, any young boy would. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like sometimes you get offended, like, why do I have to do this? Have I come for this? Or did you just enjoy it?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I enjoyed every part of it. That was one of the best evenings of my life, with him and in general also, and at Cornell.
Yeah.
And I have a certain affinity towards that generation, towards his class generation, and I don't know what it is. If it's their wisdom, if it's their renewed innocence that you have only when you're a child, or if it's their curiosity about your life, which other people our age probably don't have.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I always have a certain attraction towards mingling with that generation.
Yeah.
So it was very fun because his entire class of 1959 was there, and he was sort of giving me signals, like you said, that plate is empty, you better fill that up for that lady, or that lady dropped a spoon, or his walking stick dropped, and he was just signaling with the eyes. And no, it did not offend me at all, and I don't think it should offend anyone, especially given that it's about helping someone.
Yeah.
And they were in need of help, and I was just appreciating the fact that he's highlighting that to me. So all that scurrying around and filling plates and picking up walking sticks was lovely.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that he was the one who was trying to point me when I was missing something. So I think that made the night even more special.
Yeah. I think yeah, it's like, you have this deep affection which has grown, of course, and
Yeah.
it's something that you truly enjoy. You truly enjoy. You value it so much, and uh, of course, you are lucky, and he's, I guess, equally lucky to have someone like you in his life. I think, sometimes it's you just, you feel a connection, and I think that what brought you all probably together is, there's nothing like a coincidence. Of course, everything is synchronized. It's all planned. It's all pre-planned. And I feel that that's probably what has happened. A lot of things came together, synchronicity of some sort, and this was
Yeah.
meant to. This was meant to happen, because
Yeah.
I felt it very strongly when, in Paris, you visited the tomb of JRD, and you had
Yeah.
a conversation with him, and that was just, I won't say mind blowing. It's not even a word that I can use. That was just so angelic, so touching. It's something that only a person with some kind of deep wisdom, and a deep kind of love and, devotion can have that conversation. That you said that you will look after. He looks after you, but you would do it as well. It's a promise that you made, and I think, that was the point in the book that really did it for me. And again, I repeat on my show that, guys, if you have not picked up this book, or not, you, those who don't read it, at least glance through it. This particular part was on page, I think, 161. And I want to read it out, Shantanu, because I think it's something that I would love to read it. It says, Division 89, line 1, first tomb on the left. You went hunting. Obviously, it takes time to find that. And there were the three Parsi phrases on it: Homatta, Hukta, Hurvasta. Of course, our Parsi viewers and Parsi readers will know what it means: good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. And you said this. You said, your friend is giving me a hard time right now, but I care for him deeply. I will do my very best to be there for him in friendship and in everything else. I wish I knew you too when you were around. I wish I saw you two together. He misses you, it's obvious, but I'm blessed to have come upon his life. And I only wish that you watch over him. I will also try, just as he watches over me. So I'm not going to say more, because I think it says a lot, Shantanu.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think it describes everything about your relationship with Mr. Tata, about you as a person, you as an author, and you as a human being as well. So that's the reason why I really wanted to do this interview, because it kind of of course, this whole thing about, being Mr. Tata's friend and, best friend and being with him is obviously it's like great, and people have been very interested. But uh, you have this equally beautiful presence about you. So that's what I want to tell you as well, Chandan.
Thank you. That's a very beautiful thing to say, and I appreciate it. I'll always remember that.
You do, you do. So now let's go to this very kind of, I won't call it a rapid fire, but like a quick round, okay? So a little
Okay.
less serious and some quick questions. Just a few, okay, before we end the show.
Yeah. Sure.
So quick, one quality of Mr. Tata you love the most.
His love for desserts. Yeah, he will always have a dessert. He never ends a meal without a dessert, and that's put me in that habit. So if you're having a meal with Mr. Tata, rest assured, there's dessert. There's always
What's his
dessert.
favorite? What's his favorite dessert? Right? What's his favorite dessert?
There's this ice cream called Honey Nut Crunch.
Yeah.
I don't think you get it everywhere. It's only in specific hotels, etc. But that's one of his favorites.
Okay.
If not that, sometimes it's butterscotch.
Butterscotch, yeah.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, like, a lot of Parsis love this butterscotch and this honey nut.
Oh, really? I didn't know that at all.
So that's my dad, yeah, they do actually. Yeah, I think it's a generation. The butterscotch was like the main one. They didn't have the basket
It was
chocolate and all these,
yeah.
things. So I think that was like
Life was simpler. Life was simpler with the 5 flavors to choose from.
so much less choice,
Yeah.
more time for each other.
Yeah.
Life was simpler. Life was more fulfilling. Was
I
something
know.
about it. Yeah. One time in your whole relationship, you felt that the ground should open up and swallow you.
That would be when I think that would be when I made a mistake, and like in something I made a mistake and 2 meetings clashed, and both the parties showed up at the same time, and that was a disaster. That was a horrible disaster, and obviously my colleagues helped to sort of distribute the blame, but as they always do, and I appreciate that. But I was like, this is the end. It's been great working with Mr. Tata. I think today's my last day.
I remember you always went by.
So yes, at that time I just wanted to disappear. I'm like, what have I done?
Yeah.
But yeah, I survived that.
Your 3 colleagues, we must mention them. Are you talking about the 3 girl colleagues?
Yeah.
It's Parizad and Dipti,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can just say a bit about them, because I'm sure that they are very, very significant part of your story as well.
Yeah, they are like an extended family who have been switching roles of mother, sister, friend continuously.
Yeah.
And even though they are significantly elder to me, they are very much like teenagers that I can hang out with.
Yeah.
And that just makes them wonderful to be with. But all the wisdom and all the sea of knowledge that they have about Mr. Tata, his office, about the ethics of his office, about the moralities of things, all of that they have taken the time to sort of ingrain in me, without the least bit of hesitation. And the fact that there's no workplace competition, no workplace jealousy, no politics, far from it, is a true blessing. It's a true blessing. I cannot be more happy for that, because you can't be in a stressful job where you have to always keep your eyes open to not make mistakes and have to deal with someone who's trying to pull you down, which I have not faced. Which I have not faced a single day in my life, and I'm truly, truly blessed for that.
Yes.
So without those 3, I would not be here either, or I would not have survived this long in his office either. So
it shows a lot on him, right? The kind of loyalty. You can't buy loyalty. You can't do it. You can give people $1 million and they will not be loyal, or they won't talk good about you. They'll talk behind your back. So obviously, the loyalty that you get from people is what you are. So that respect and loyalty, I think it streams from him. They say a person, your employees are actually a reflection of what the boss is.
Yeah, definitely. yeah, everything he stands for has to some form being imbibed in them already. And they took the trouble to sort of pass it on to me
Yeah.
instead of just letting me figure it out myself.
About yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice. Do you think, I know this is a little bit, do you think Mr. Tata and you have like a previous birth connect? Do you think about it?
I don't know. I definitely know that it's no like paths overlapping had to have so many factors line up.
Yeah.
Even one out of place would have meant that my entire life with him would be different. But I would say yes, because while people are always, you mentioned that people are always curious about how this happened, how I ended up there, they are mostly looking at the cosmetic or the professional part of it, where you are working with Mr. Tata, and that's a privilege, and that's you have made a professional milestone or whatever it is. But people fail to understand, and the whole purpose of this book was that people fail to understand that my biggest takeaway from this series of incidents was not this professional milestone, was not how my career turned out, or was not how I get to learn right now. But my biggest achievement is that I got an amazing friend, and he's just irreplaceable as a friend. So I could probably live without all the other things that people are curious about,
Yeah.
but to have had made a friend like this,
Yeah.
it is a very strong connection. So yeah, probably maybe I did have that at some point,
Yeah.
or maybe this is the first time and it will continue. Nobody knows.
Yeah. 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 I felt
But
that, so I just felt, I said, there seems to be, I think,
yeah,
wow, he's a really great storyteller that I'm actually dissecting this. I'm like, oh my gosh, now why am I thinking all these things? But that's great. You give that reader a thought like that. I mean, that's very, that just obviously shows, shows you as an author, which is pretty brilliant.
well, thank you. Thank you.
No, you're most welcome. You're most welcome. It's my pleasure to say these things to you, and I mean them. Have people's attitude like changed towards you ever since the first time it came out was in Humans of Bombay, right? Your story,
Yeah,
one
yeah,
of
it
the
was.
main portals, yeah. So have the
Yeah,
attitude of people changed towards you? Like, do you feel people more drawn towards you or wanting to make friends with you?
yeah, definitely, definitely. And I don't blame them,
Yeah,
because people love to idolize, or people love to like have that uh, story that someone ended up in a place that is so exclusive. Yes, people definitely. There are now different aspects of my relationships, of my life in my life, why people want to sort of come and become a friend or are curious to talk to me. And one is obviously that Mr. Tata is there. One is the entrepreneurial teachings. One is the welfare of stray dogs. So everyone has their reason to sort of
yeah.
do all of that, but that all of that got accelerated after the Humans of Bombay story came out, definitely.
Mm.
And people now want to talk to me on Mr. Tata's connection a lot,
Yeah, right.
which I don't mind doing, but which was the main reason why the book came out, so that I
People
don't have to keep
know.
things to myself.
Yeah,
And that was always the purpose of the book. So many people are curious,
yeah.
and so many people say that I would just do anything to be in your shoes. Then I was like, fine, let me just go ahead and do that. Let me put you in my shoes. Whoever wants to
Oh,
take
wow.
a dip into this,
Yeah,
whatever my experiences are with him, I will put them out exactly as they happened,
yeah,
and you interpret them and you see what you can take away from that. So that was the whole purpose for the book.
yeah,
And I think it has to some extent done that job.
yeah.
So
What's his reaction been
yeah.
to the book? Is he must be
Oh,
elated,
he's loved
right?
it. In fact, we were talking about it yesterday. And he has been telling me that he has been going to different places, and somebody or the other keeps bringing it up, and
Yeah.
how heartwarming it is,
Oh,
and he feels very delighted.
yeah,
And he also said that the media has been very respectful of it. They have
yeah,
received it
yeah,
respectfully.
yeah. They have.
The reviews have been great.
Yeah,
So we were sort of worried, because we were like, um, in this time and age when everyone's trolling everyone, I don't know how this book is going to do. And if it was a fictional story, you don't have a lot to worry about. But if I'm putting out my entire life for the world to
yeah.
see,
Hmm.
and then if it gets attacked, it's pretty scary. And I had prepared myself for that, but that day never came. And that's what surprises me the most about the success of this book, that nobody really wanted to attack it.
Yeah.
And Mr. Tata has noticed that. He's noticed that bit, and he thinks that it's because the stories come from a place of just
Good
pure
intent.
friendship.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why I don't think anyone wanted to do that. So he's happy with how it's turned out. I constantly give him updates. Just yesterday, I told him about it being in the bestseller at Crossword,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he was happy for me.
I saw your Instagram post on that. Yeah. You were,
Yeah,
yeah. It's great. So a couple of more questions. Fun one. What if you have a girlfriend or you already do? I don't know. But what if she says, "Okay, listen, you know, uh, I just want to meet Mr. Tata." She keeps sounding you like, I just want to spend time with him. And Mr. Tata's like, "Okay, you know what? Fine, but not all the time." What would you do? How would you balance it? Because you talk about a relationship in this book, and of course, one of your relationships,
yeah.
a couple of them. And what would you do this time? What would you do?
I think if people close to me want to be introduced to him, I would express that desire to him
Yeah,
and let him take the call.
yeah,
For example, my best friend Sukrul,
yeah.
he's wanted to meet Mr. Tata, but he's met him during motor pause.
Hmm,
And Mr. Tata has registered in his mind that he is my best friend,
hmm.
which is why every time now he's my roommate also, and he knows that. So every time he calls me over for dinner, he always extends that courtesy that do you want to bring Sukrut along, because um, he remembers that I have someone living with me who is important to me, and ipso facto he automatically becomes important to him also, which is why he's extending that dinner invitation. Or he could have just said that just come alone.
Of course, yeah,
So yeah, if anyone in my life, but of course they have to pass my own filter of why do you want to meet him. Is
yeah,
it just like very general superficial curiosity? Is it just to take a picture, or is it that you genuinely want to have a conversation with him or a memory with him?
yeah, yeah.
So all my close friends have met him. Even my motopause team has met him,
Yes,
because I know and I trust all of them. I trust their intentions, and they deserved it. They did such a phenomenal job with the dogs, and
right.
they made Motopause a big success. So I put all 15 on them on a bus from Pune to Bombay, and took him to his house, and Mr. Tata met each one of them.
Yeah,
So I absolutely don't have any inhibitions as such that no, you should be separate and stuff.
right, right,
If
right.
both people want to meet, then of
Yeah,
course I don't have any problem.
okay. So, any time in your friendship that you felt that the expectations are really high and you'll not be able to live up to it, did you have these moments?
Not really. Never. I've never had that moment. No expectations are too high, and all expectations have been met happily.
Yeah,
I think because we wanted to meet each other's expectations from a place of genuine shared love.
yeah,
I don't think it all ever seemed like someone is expecting too much or too less or anything at all.
yeah.
Whatever we do of our own emotions and feelings, and I don't think anyone's asked anyone to do anything as such.
Right.
So I don't think that will ever happen.
And the last one, when's your next book? Is
I
it
think
are you planning to write one? Is it going to be like a sequel, or it's going to be something totally different? Like, do you?
um, I honestly don't know. Reason I think that this book was so the reason this book was so, I think, welcomed by everyone was because I was narrating things exactly how they happened. They were coming from a place of truth
Right.
in how things happened. And given the nature of the stories, people really liked them and they all had something to relate to.
Yeah.
When that happens again, when I feel that I have about 15, 20 stories, be it just my own, be it just Mr. Data, or be it
Yeah.
intertwined as usual, which I expect would be,
Mm.
then I would again write another book.
Right.
Because it's an ongoing story, which
Yeah.
is something very unique because memoirs are usually written towards the end,
Yeah.
when everything's said and done.
Yes. Yes.
But this is something that I'm writing about as it's happening.
Exactly.
So of course there's going to be more stories, and I'm constantly vigilant about
Yeah.
stories that will add value to people's lives.
Of course.
And while I've already started accumulating those, I'm not going to write a second book for the sake of it or because it's expected, because that's the best way to ruin things. Um, so just coming out with a sequel because the first one did well is really bad idea. So I'll be patient. I'll accumulate those stories.
Yeah.
And I think I'll know when it's the right time.
Okay, that's great.
So.
Okay, Shantanu, that was something very special. It was really special to have you on my show. This is Break Free. My show is a celebrity show which talks about mostly celebrities and achievers who've broken free from where the shackles, norms, and done things that are different. And of course, you have. I'm really proud to have you here, and I thank you for being here and for answering everything with so much of grace, so much of dignity, so much of warmth. And I totally believe, I totally believe that your book will become number one, and I totally believe that you have a bright, bright, great future ahead. And I totally believe that your friendship and your bond is blessed, and it remains blessed always in Mr. Tata. So I can leave you with that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And this might be by far one of the most authentic interviews I've done, because you've really taken the time to sort of read through and write down what you wanted to talk to me about. Not everyone puts in that trouble, and I really appreciate that. And you've given me like a sea of compliments, and I'm sorry if I don't know how to respond to them. I'll figure it out in time.
Yeah.
But thank you. I really appreciate you saying every single word, and though it might not seem like it, I will be hanging on to all of those. So it was lovely being here.
And thank you for being here. I'm going to send you a big kiss. And I want to kiss
Thank you.
back. Kiss back. I need a kiss back.